Get your black ass out of my VIP section before I have security drag you out like the trash you are. Gregory Hayes stood over the 18-year-old girl. His voice dripped with contempt. Diana Carter looked up calmly. Sir, there's been a misunderstanding. I have an invitation. I don't care what piece of paper you stole. This lounge is for people worth actual billions, not charity cases. He grabbed her arm. The room went silent. Gregory yanked her toward the exit. Her heel caught on the marble. Champagne glasses shattered. Phones came out. 200 guests watched in shock. But nobody moved to help. Diana whispered, "You're making a mistake." Gregory laughed. "The only mistake is you being here, little girl." What happened next cost him $20 billion. 30 minutes earlier, Diana Carter had walked into the Plaza Hotel's grand ballroom with butterflies in her stomach. This was her first major charity gala. Her father had invited her as a graduation gift, a chance to see his world before she left for Stanford in the fall. The annual Tech Innovation Gala wasn't just any fundraiser. Tickets cost $50,000 per plate. The guest list read like a Forbes Billionaire ranking. CEOs, venture capitalists, political donors, old money and new tech wealth mingling under crystal chandeliers. Diana wore a custom black Valentino gown her father had surprised her with for her 18th birthday last month. The diamond earrings had belonged to her grandmother, a woman who'd worked as a maid her entire life so her children could go to college. Diana touched them gently, a reminder of how far her family had come. She checked her phone, a text from her father. "Running 20 minutes late, board meeting running over, major announcement tonight, stay in VIP, important clients there, love you sweetheart." Diana smiled. Her father, James Carter, was the CEO of Carter Global Enterprises. The company was valued at $45 billion, but at home, he was just Dad, the man who still made her pancakes on Sunday mornings and cried at her high school graduation. She'd learned early not to lead with his name. Her father had taught her that. "Let people see Diana first," he'd say. "Not James Carter's daughter. You have your own light." So when she approached the VIP lounge entrance, she simply showed her platinum invitation to the manager, a woman named Rachel Thompson. Rachel's face brightened. "Ms. Carter, we've been expecting you. Your father's table is ready. Right this way." The VIP section was separated by velvet ropes. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked Central Park. A jazz quartet played softly in the corner. Ice sculptures shaped like circuit boards gleamed under strategic lighting. Servers moved silently with trays of caviar and vintage champagne. Diana noticed she was the youngest person there by at least 20 years, and the only black woman in a sea of older white men in tuxedos. She found her father's table. The nameplate read, "James Carter, Carter Global Enterprises," in elegant script. She sat down, suddenly aware of the eyes on her. Across the room, Gregory Hayes noticed her too. Gregory was 52, though he looked older. Years of hostile takeovers and leveraged buyouts had etched lines into his face. He built his $8 billion real estate empire through aggression and intimidation. Hayes Development Corporation owned properties in 30 states. His reputation preceded him. Ruthless in negotiation, cruel to competitors, generous only when cameras were watching. Tonight, he'd come with his son Brandon, 26, who followed his father like a shadow. Both wore matching Patek Philippe watches worth more than most people's houses. Gregory leaned toward Brandon. "That girl at the Carter table. Who let her in?" Brandon glanced over. "Maybe she's someone's assistant?" "Assistant?" Gregory's lip curled. This used to be a room for people who built empires, not participated in them. He watched Diana check her phone, smooth her dress, look around nervously. Everything about her screamed youth, inexperience, someone who didn't belong. What Gregory didn't see was the platinum invitation on Diana's lap, or the acceptance letter from Stanford in her purse, full scholarship, ranked top 5% of her class, or the fact that she'd spent the last 2 years building a non-profit focused on renewable energy access in underserved communities. He saw only what he wanted to see: a young black woman in a space he believed was his. At the next table, Elizabeth Bennett, the event coordinator, whispered urgently into her headset. "Yes, confirm James Carter is announcing the Southeast Asia Partnership tonight. $12.8 billion contract. The biggest deal of the decade. Hayes Development is one of 2 finalists." Gregory overheard. His eyes lit up. This was it. The deal he'd been chasing for 18 months. The one that would cement his legacy. Make Hayes Development truly global. He didn't notice Diana's phone light up with another text from her father. Didn't see her smile at the message. Didn't realize that the shy 18-year-old girl sitting alone was the daughter of the man who held his future in his hands. Rachel Thompson approached Diana with a glass of sparkling water. "Your father should be here soon. Can I get you anything while you wait?" "I'm fine, thank you." Diana's voice was soft but clear, polite, the way her parents had raised her. Rachel hesitated. "Ms. Carter, I should mention, Mr. Hayes over there can be difficult. If he approaches you, just stay calm. Your father deals with people like him all the time." Diana nodded, not fully understanding. She'd grown up somewhat sheltered. Her father had worked hard to give her a childhood free from the racism and microaggressions he'd faced building his empire. She knew they existed. She wasn't naive, but she'd never experienced them so directly. Not yet. Gregory drained his scotch. He'd been drinking since the cocktail hour. Not enough to be drunk, but enough to feel emboldened, invincible. "Brandon, stay here." He stood, adjusting his tuxedo jacket. "I'm going to handle this situation before it becomes embarrassing for everyone." Brandon looked uncomfortable. "Dad, maybe we should just..." "Don't be soft. This is how you maintain standards." Gregory crossed the VIP lounge with purpose. His footsteps were heavy, deliberate. Other guests sensed something was about to happen, and conversations quieted. Diana looked up as his shadow fell across the table. "Excuse me, miss?" His tone was sharp, condescending. "I think there's been a mistake." Diana's heart began to race, but she kept her face calm. "I'm sorry. This is the VIP section for platinum donors." He barely glanced at her invitation. "There must be some confusion. This area requires a certain level of contribution." She felt heat rise in her cheeks. "Stay calm," she told herself, "like Dad taught you." "There's no confusion, sir. I'm exactly where I should be." She gestured to the nameplate. "This is my father's table." Gregory's eyes flickered to the nameplate, but he didn't really read it, didn't process it. He was too focused on proving his point. "Let me guess," he said, voice dripping with sarcasm. "Scholarship student? Diversity quota? Someone's charitable +1? The words hit Diana like a slap. She'd never been spoken to like this. Never had her worth questioned so publicly, so cruelly. Around them, other guests pretended not to listen. But everyone was watching. Diana's jaw tightened. She took a slow breath, buying time to compose herself. Her father's voice echoed in her mind. "When people underestimate you, stay dignified. Let your character speak." "Sir, I'm a platinum donor with every right to be here." Her voice remained steady despite the trembling in her hands. Gregory laughed, a cold, mocking sound that carried across the lounge. "Platinum donor? You're what, 18? 20? What do you do, post on social media about empowerment?" Several guests nearby shifted uncomfortably. Rachel Thompson started forward, then stopped. Her job depended on keeping donors happy, and Gregory Hayes donated $5 million annually. Diana felt tears threaten, but refused to let them fall. "I'm asking you politely to leave me alone." "You're asking me?" Gregory's voice rose. He turned to address the nearby tables. Can you believe this? They're letting anyone in now. Standards don't mean anything anymore. Brandon Hayes appeared at his father's elbow. Dad, maybe we should stay out of this, Brandon. I'm teaching this girl about respecting her betters. The word girl landed like a weapon. Diana was 18, legally an adult, but in that moment, Gregory wielded her youth like evidence of unworthiness. Her phone buzzed. The screen lit up. Dad calling. She reached for it, desperate to hear her father's voice, to have someone defend her. Gregory's hand shot out and snatched the phone from the table. Hey! Diana stood abruptly. That's my property. Your daddy can't help you here, sweetheart. Gregory held the phone just out of her reach, taunting her. The screen showed James Carter's name. Gregory glanced at it, but the name didn't register. Just another contact. Another nobody. He answered the call and immediately hung up. Diana's eyes widened in shock and anger. You just hung up on my father! Good. Maybe now you'll learn some manners and leave quietly. Something shifted in Diana's expression. The polite, nervous girl disappeared. Her spine straightened. Her voice dropped, becoming eerily calm. Sir, I'm going to ask you one final time. Return my phone and walk away. Gregory leaned in close, invading her space. His breath smelled of expensive scotch. Or what? You'll cry? File a complaint? Little girls like you need to learn their place. Diana reached for her phone. Gregory grabbed her wrist, not gently. His fingers dug into her skin hard enough to leave marks. Let go of me. Her voice was quiet but fierce. Make me. Stephen Williams, the security guard stationed near the VIP entrance, took a step forward. Rachel finally found her voice. Mr. Hayes, please, we can resolve this. Shut up, Rachel. I want this girl removed. Now. If security won't do it, I will. He yanked Diana's arm, pulling her away from the table. She stumbled, her heel catching on the thick carpet, the sound of tearing fabric as her dress caught on a chair. Guests gasped. Gregory didn't care. He dragged her forward. Stop it! Diana's composure cracked. She tried to pull free, but he was stronger, bigger. I'm 18 years old. What are you doing? Teaching you a lesson about where you belong. They'd moved 15 feet across the lounge now. Other VIPs watched in stunned silence. Phones came out, not to help, but to record. The modern instinct. Document, don't intervene. Diana's designer heel snapped. She nearly fell. Gregory kept pulling. A champagne flute toppled from a nearby table, shattering on the marble floor. The crystal explosion punctured the shocked silence. Brandon stood frozen, face pale. Rachel clutched her tablet, paralyzed. Stephen Williams spoke into his radio, urgently calling for backup. Diana felt humiliation burn through her. Tears finally spilled over. She was being dragged like a criminal, like she was nothing, in front of hundreds of people. And nobody was stopping it. You're hurting me, she said, voice breaking. You should have left when I told you to. They were nearly at the VIP entrance when the main doors burst open. A voice cut through the room like a blade. Gregory Hayes. The words were spoken quietly, but they carried absolute authority. Everyone froze. Gregory's hand went slack on Diana's arm. He turned slowly. A man stood in the doorway, 58 years old, 6 feet tall, impeccably dressed in a midnight blue suit. His face was a mask of controlled fury. Behind him stood 3 others, 2 men in expensive suits, 1 woman with a tablet, all looking at Gregory with expressions ranging from shock to disgust. The room had gone completely silent. Even the jazz quartet had stopped playing. Diana's sob of relief was audible. Dad! Gregory's face drained of color. His mouth opened and closed soundlessly, because every person in that room recognized the man in the doorway. James Carter, CEO of Carter Global Enterprises, one of the most powerful black men in American business, and Gregory Hayes was still holding his daughter's arm. James Carter walked forward with deliberate slowness. Each step echoed on the marble floor. His eyes never left Gregory Hayes. Thomas Anderson, board member of 3 Fortune 500 companies, followed closely. His face was grave. The other 2 executives flanked them, creating an imposing wall of corporate power. Gregory finally released Diana's arm. She stumbled backward, cradling her wrist where red marks were already forming. Her mascara had run. Her dress was torn at the hem. One shoe was broken. She looked like exactly what she was, a frightened 18-year-old girl who'd just been assaulted. James reached his daughter first. His hands were gentle as he steadied her. "Are you hurt?" Diana shook her head, unable to speak. Relief and humiliation warred on her face. James looked at her wrist. His jaw clenched. When he turned back to Gregory, his voice was deadly calm. "Remove your hand from my daughter." "Oh, wait, you already did, because you just realized who she is." Gregory's mouth worked soundlessly. His face had gone from red with anger to white with shock. "Mr. Carter, I didn't know." "Didn't know what? That she's my daughter? That changes whether assault is acceptable?" The word assault landed like a bomb. Guests gasped. Phones were definitely recording now. Brandon Hayes finally moved, grabbing his father's arm. "Dad, we need to—" "Get off me, Brandon!" Gregory shook him off, trying to regain composure. His mind was racing. Damage control. Spin this somehow. "Mr. Carter, sir, this is clearly a misunderstanding. Your daughter didn't identify herself." "She shouldn't have to." James's voice cut like ice. "She had an invitation, her name on the guest list, a reserved seat with my nameplate. What more did she need? Oh, I know. The right skin color, the right age. Your permission." Rachel Thompson had materialized beside them, tablet clutched to her chest. "Mr. Carter," I tried to explain, but Mr. Hayes— James held up a hand. "Rachel, I know. You were scared of losing your job." "I understand." He turned back to Gregory. "But you saw an 18-year-old black girl and decided she couldn't possibly belong here." "That's not— I never said—" Gregory was sweating now. "You grabbed her, dragged her, in front of 200 witnesses." James's voice rose slightly. "My daughter texted me 20 minutes ago that she was here safely. Then I got a call, heard her voice saying, 'That's my property,' and you hanging up on me. Do you know what I thought? What any father would think." The room was utterly silent. "I thought my daughter was in danger, so I left a $12 billion negotiation, the most important deal of my career, to get here." James stepped closer to Gregory. "And I find you physically removing her like garbage." Thomas Anderson spoke for the first time. "Gregory, I think you should sit down." "Tom, you know me. You know I wouldn't—" Gregory turned to his old golf buddy desperately. Thomas's face was stone. "I know exactly what I just watched. What everyone here watched." Elizabeth Bennett, the event coordinator, approached quickly. "Mr. Carter, I've pulled the security footage. All of it. I'm so sorry this happened. Send it to my legal team. And the police." James said it loudly enough for everyone to hear. Gregory's eyes went wide. "Police? Mr. Carter, surely we can resolve this like gentlemen. Gentlemen don't assault teenage girls." Diana found her voice, still shaky. "Dad, I just want to go." "I know, sweetheart. Soon." James kept his hand on her shoulder, protective. Then he addressed the room. "For those who don't know, this is my daughter, Diana. She's 18 years old. She graduated top of her class last month with a perfect GPA. She's been accepted to Stanford on a full academic scholarship." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. On the screens around the room, meant for displaying charity impact statistics, Elizabeth had projected Diana's credentials: Stanford acceptance letter, Forbes Teen Visionaries feature, National Debate Championship, founder of a renewable energy nonprofit that had brought solar power to 15 underserved communities. She personally donated $500,000 from her grandmother's trust fund to tonight's charity, James continued. She's here because I invited her, because she's brilliant, compassionate, and has more integrity in her little finger than some people have in their entire bodies. Gregory was searching desperately for an exit strategy. Mr. Carter, please. I made a mistake. I'll apologize. I'll double my donation. You think this is about money? James's laugh was harsh. You grabbed my 18-year-old daughter, left bruises on her wrist, humiliated her publicly, and your first instinct is to throw money at it? Brandon stepped forward again, his voice cracking. Mr. Carter, sir, I'm so sorry. My father has been drinking. That doesn't excuse it, but... No, it doesn't. James looked at Brandon with something almost like pity. You stood there and watched. You laughed when he insulted her. You're complicit. Brandon's face crumpled. He looked at Diana, really looked at her for the first time, saw the tear tracks, the trembling hands, the way she was trying so hard to hold herself together. I'm sorry, he whispered. I'm so sorry. Rachel was crying now. Miss Carter, I should have done more. I should have stood up for you. I was a coward. The dominoes were falling, the social fabric unraveling. Gregory tried once more. James, can I call you James? We're both businessmen. Surely we can work this out privately. No need to involve authorities or make a public spectacle. James's phone rang. He glanced at the screen and his expression changed. It's the board calling. About you, Gregory. About the deal. Gregory's blood ran cold. What deal? The one you've been chasing for 18 months. The Southeast Asia expansion. 47 properties across 8 countries. 15-year partnership. James pulled a document from his jacket pocket. Hayes Development was our frontrunner. Past tense. He unfolded the contract. Gregory saw his company name on the letterhead. $12.8 billion, James said softly. The largest development contract in your company's history. The one that would have made Hayes Development truly global. The one that would have been your legacy. Gregory reached for it with shaking hands. Mr. Carter, please. We can still... James held it away. Can we? Can I partner with a man who just assaulted my daughter? Can my board approve that? Can our investors? Our stakeholders? He looked around the room. Can anyone here honestly say they'd want to work with someone who did what you just did? Silence. Damning, absolute silence. Thomas Anderson cleared his throat. Gregory, as a board member of 3 companies currently partnered with Hayes Development, I'm calling emergency meetings first thing Monday morning. This behavior is unacceptable, especially toward a minor. She's 18, Gregory protested weakly. Barely. She's a teenager. A kid. Thomas's voice hardened. You dragged a teenage girl across a floor because you decided she didn't belong. What does that say about your judgment, your character? How can we trust you with billion-dollar projects? Another CEO stood, then another, each one distancing themselves, protecting their brands. Gregory's phone started buzzing, vibrating continuously. He glanced at it with dread. Investor alerts, board member calls, news notifications. The video was already spreading. On the event screens, Elizabeth had put up the social media feed. Hashtag VIP Gala Scandal was trending. The video of Gregory dragging Diana had 500,000 views, growing exponentially. Comments flooded in. He put his hands on an 18-year-old girl. This is assault, plain and simple. Billionaire attacks black teenager. This is America. Someone identify this man and his company. Gregory watched his reputation disintegrate in real time. James's phone rang again. He answered, listened, Then his eyebrows rose. Really? She saw the footage already? He paused. Yes, Diana's fine. Shaken but strong. I'll tell her you said that. He ended the call and looked at Gregory. That was the mayor. Diana's godmother. She's watching the live stream. She wanted me to tell you that Hayes Development's city contracts, $400 million worth, are under immediate ethics review. Gregory's knees actually buckled. Brandon caught him. Dad, we need to go. Now. But there was nowhere to go. They were surrounded by witnesses, by cameras, by the consequences Gregory had created with his own hands. Diana spoke again, stronger this time. Mr. Hayes, do you understand what you did? Gregory looked at her, really looked at her, for the first time. Saw not a stereotype or an intruder, but a terrified teenager he'd brutalized. I thought, his voice broke. I thought you didn't belong. Why? Diana's question was simple but devastating. Because I'm young? Because I'm black? Because I'm a woman? Which one made you think assault was justified? Gregory had no answer. You saw me and made a choice, Diana continued. You chose to assume, to demean, to physically harm. You chose violence over conversation, power over decency. Her voice grew steadier with each word. The room hung on every syllable. I'm 18 years old. I just graduated high school. I came here to support a charity and spend time with my dad before I leave for college. Tears streamed down her face now, but her voice didn't waver. And you treated me like I was nothing, like I was trash to be removed. The silence that followed was deafening. James put his arm around his daughter. We're going to press charges, civil and criminal. Diana deserves justice, and you deserve consequences. Gregory opened his mouth, but no words came out. What could he possibly say? The answer was nothing. There was nothing left to say. James Carter turned to Elizabeth. Move the announcement to the main ballroom. Everyone needs to hear this. 10 minutes later, 500 guests packed the plaza's grand ballroom. Word had spread. People from the general gala section pushed in, wanting to witness history. The energy was electric, uncomfortable. Something important was happening. Diana sat in the front row beside her father. She'd cleaned her face, but the bruises on her wrist were visible. Someone had given her a pashmina to cover her torn dress. She looked small in the massive chair. Young. Vulnerable. Gregory and Brandon stood to the side, surrounded by a wall of security guards. Not for protection, for containment. Gregory's phone hadn't stopped buzzing. He'd stopped looking at it. The screens throughout the ballroom showed the security footage on loop. The grab, the drag, Diana stumbling, her broken heel, over and over. 47 million people would eventually watch that video, but right now, it was just beginning. James stepped to the podium. The room fell silent instantly. Tonight was supposed to celebrate innovation and charity. Instead, it exposed something we still haven't innovated past. Prejudice, assumption, violence. He paused, letting the words sink in. And tonight, those things had a face, a name, a price. He gestured to the screens. You all saw what happened. Gregory Hayes, a billionaire real estate developer, physically assaulted my 18-year-old daughter because he decided she didn't belong in the VIP section. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Some of you are wondering why I'm making this so public. Why not handle it quietly? Settle with lawyers and NDAs? James's voice hardened. Because silence protects abusers. Because private settlements let this behavior continue. Because my daughter isn't the first, and unless we act, she won't be the last. He pulled out a folder, thick, official. 18 months ago, Carter Global began negotiations for our Southeast Asia expansion. 47 sustainable residential and commercial properties across 8 countries. A $12.8 billion contract spanning 15 years. Gregory's face had gone gray. He knew what was coming. We narrowed our search to 2 development firms. Hayes Development was our frontrunner. James held up the contract. Gregory's company logo was clearly visible on the header. This contract represented the largest deal in Hayes Development's history. It would have doubled their international footprint, made them a true global player. James looked directly at Gregory. But I don't build empires with men who assault teenage girls. He tore the contract in half. The ripping sound echoed through the ballroom. Gasps, camera flashes, someone shouted. Gregory made a sound like he'd been punched. His hand clutched his chest. "No," he whispered. "Please, no." James wasn't finished. Carter Global is built on 3 principles: excellence, integrity, respect. What happened tonight violated all 3. I will not partner with someone who treats people, especially young black women, as disposable. Thomas Anderson stood from his seat. As a board member of Microsoft, Delta Airlines, and Renewable Energy Council, all companies currently contracted with Hayes Development, I'm calling emergency sessions. Combined, our contracts with Hayes total $3.9 billion, all under review. Another CEO stood, then another, like dominoes falling. Microsoft's new campus project, $2.1 billion, withdrawn. Delta's airport expansion, $890 million, suspended pending investigation. Green certification for all Hayes properties, revoked. Gregory was hyperventilating. Brandon gripped his father's arm, looking terrified. The screens updated with a running tally. Carter Global contract, minus $12.8 billion. Microsoft campus, minus $2.1 billion. Delta expansion, minus $890 million. 3 partnerships, minus $1.4 billion. Stock price projection, minus $3.2 billion. Total exposure, $20.38 billion. The number hung there, incomprehensible, devastating. $20 billion, James said quietly. That's what your prejudice cost in 90 minutes. But this isn't really about money, is it? It's about who you are, what you believe, how you treat people when you think you have power over them. Diana stood. The room focused on her immediately. James stepped back, giving her the podium. She was shaking, but her voice was clear. "Mr. Hayes, I want you to understand something. This isn't revenge." She gripped the podium edges. "It's consequence. You made assumptions about me based on my skin color and age. When I tried to show you my invitation, you didn't look. When I asked you to stop, you didn't listen. When I explained this was my father's table, you didn't care." Her voice grew stronger. "You used physical force against an 18-year-old girl because I didn't comply with your prejudice. You did it publicly, arrogantly, because you thought your money and your skin color protected you from consequences." The ballroom was absolutely silent. Every eye on this teenage girl who'd been humiliated an hour ago and was now addressing 500 of the country's most powerful people. "I didn't tell you who my father was because I wanted to be judged on my own merit. I wanted people to see Diana, not James Carter's daughter." Her voice cracked slightly. "But you didn't see me at all. You saw a stereotype, a threat to your comfortable space, something to be removed." Gregory tried to speak. "I'm sorry. Don't interrupt her." James's voice was sharp as a blade. Diana continued. "I'm 18 years old. I just graduated high school with a 4.0 GPA and perfect SAT scores. I'm going to Stanford on a full academic scholarship to study sustainable business. I've spent 2 years building a non-profit that's brought renewable energy to 15 communities. I speak 3 languages: I volunteer at a youth center every Saturday. I published a paper on climate policy that's been cited by the UN. With each achievement, Gregory seemed to shrink. But none of that mattered to you because you saw my skin first. You saw my age and decided I was worthless. Do you understand what you took from me tonight? Tears streamed down her face now, but her voice never wavered. You took my safety, my dignity. You made me feel small and scared in front of hundreds of people. You put your hands on me, hurt me, and everyone just watched. She turned to face the audience. Some of you saw it happen. You recorded it on your phones. But how many of you tried to stop it? The shame in the room was palpable. People looked away. That's the real problem. Not just people like Mr. Hayes who commit these acts, but everyone who sees and does nothing, everyone who's too uncomfortable to intervene, too worried about causing a scene or offending a donor. Rachel Thompson stood up, tears streaming down her face. You're right. I'm so sorry, Diana. I was a coward. I should have protected you. Stephen Williams, the security guard, stood next. I called for backup, but I should have stepped in immediately. I failed you. One by one, people stood, apologizing, taking accountability. Brandon Hayes stepped forward, away from his father. His voice shook. Ms. Carter, I don't expect forgiveness. I stood there. I laughed at my father's comments. I was complicit in your assault. He pulled an envelope from his jacket. This is my resignation from Hayes Development, effective immediately. I can't represent a company or a man who does what I witnessed tonight. He walked to the podium and handed the envelope to his father. Gregory stared at it, then at his son. Brandon, don't. Dad, look at what we did. What you taught me to do. Brandon's voice broke. I don't want to be that person anymore. The screens updated again. Social media metrics. Hashtag VIP Gala. Scandal. 5 million views in 45 minutes. Trending #1 globally. 47,000 retweets. News coverage. CNN, BBC, Al Jazeera Hayes. Development stock. Down 34% in after-hours trading. James's phone rang. He glanced at it and his expression changed. It's the board. Hayes Development's board. Gregory's head snapped up, eyes wide with desperate hope. James answered on speaker. This is James Carter. A woman's voice, cold and professional. Mr. Carter, this is Patricia Morrison, lead board member of Hayes Development. We've been watching the live stream. We're calling an emergency session for tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. We're voting to remove Gregory Hayes as CEO. Gregory collapsed into a chair. No, please. The vote is 8-1, Gregory. You're out. Patricia's voice softened slightly. What you did tonight was unconscionable. We cannot allow Hayes Development to be represented by someone capable of assaulting a teenager. The liability alone, never mind the moral bankruptcy. She paused. Mr. Carter, Mrs. Carter, on behalf of the board, I apologize. This doesn't undo what happened, but we want you to know the consequences are real. The call ended. The screens showed the stock price dropping further. Down 48%. Investor lawsuits filed. 3 major banks calling in loans. Gregory sat there, watching his empire crumble in real time. Everything he'd built over 30 years, gone, because of 90 seconds of prejudice and violence. James returned to the podium. I want everyone to understand something. This isn't just about Gregory Hayes. He's a symptom of a larger disease. He pulled up statistics on the screens. 64% of black professionals report being mistaken for service staff. 58% have experienced physical intimidation in professional settings. 73% of black teenagers report discrimination in spaces meant for networking or advancement. Only 3.2% of Fortune 500 executives are black women. This happens every day. The only difference tonight was that Diana had a powerful father who could demand accountability. But what about all the young black women who don't? What about the countless people dismissed, grabbed, humiliated with no cameras recording? No billionaire father to tear up contracts? The room sat in heavy silence. So here's my challenge to everyone in this room. You're leaders, influencers. You shape culture and policy. James's voice rose with passion. What are you going to do? Will you implement real consequences in your companies? Will you intervene when you see this happening? Or will you keep recording and doing nothing? Linda Anderson, CEO of Anderson Development Group, stood. She was a black woman in her 50s, elegant and accomplished. Mr. Carter, Carter Global was considering 2 firms for the Southeast Asia project. Hayes Development was one. She smiled. I believe my company was the other? James smiled back. Ms. Anderson, would you please join me? Linda walked to the stage. They shook hands as cameras flashed. Anderson Development Group embodies the values Carter Global stands for: diversity, integrity, sustainable building practices, and ethical leadership. James held up a new contract. It's my honor to award the $12.8 billion Southeast Asia expansion to Anderson Development. The ballroom erupted in applause, a standing ovation that lasted 5 minutes. Linda took the microphone. This isn't just a business deal, it's a statement, a line in the sand. We will not tolerate discrimination. We will not look away from abuse. We will build a better future brick by brick with people who share these values. Gregory hadn't moved. He sat slumped in his chair, surrounded by security, watching the contract he'd chased for 18 months go to someone else. Watching his son stand with the crowd, applauding. Watching his world end. Diana's phone lit up. Messages flooding in from around the world. Thank you for speaking up. You gave me courage to report my own harassment. My daughter is watching this. She needed to see this. You're a hero. Diana wasn't sure about hero. She just felt exhausted, traumatized, but also, strangely, empowered. She'd told her truth, been believed, seen justice happen in real time. It was more than most people ever got. James wrapped his arm around his daughter. You did good, sweetheart. You were brave and dignified and strong. Diana leaned into her father's embrace. Can we go home now? Yes, but first, he turned to Elizabeth. Make sure every news outlet gets the full security footage. No edited versions. Let the world see exactly what happened. Elizabeth nodded. Already done, sir. It's everywhere. As they walked toward the exit, the crowd parted. People reached out, not to touch, but to show support. Solidarity. Gregory was escorted out a side door by security. His phone was still buzzing. Lawyers, board members, investors. All the people who'd valued him for his money are now demanding answers. The hashtag kept growing. The stock kept falling. The world kept watching. And Gregory Hayes learned what happens when prejudice meets consequence. 3 weeks later, Diana sat in her Stanford dorm room, boxes still half unpacked. Sunlight caught the Time magazine award on her desk. Person of the Week. The video had reached 47 million views. Hashtag VIP Gala Scandal had sparked a movement she never asked to lead. But movements have costs. She'd started therapy the week after the gala. Dr. Carter helped her process the nightmares, the panic attacks, the feeling of Gregory's hand on her arm that wouldn't fade. Even when you win, trauma doesn't disappear, Dr. Carter had said. Give yourself permission to heal. Diana was trying. She opened her laptop. Hayes Development dominated the headlines. Gregory had been voted out as CEO, 8-1. Stock down 67%. Penthouse sold. Yacht gone. Country club memberships revoked. Net worth dropped from $8 billion to $2.1 billion. The fall was spectacular. Criminal charges were pending. Assault on a minor. The district attorney was building a case. James Carter had made it clear, no plea deals without real accountability. Diana clicked to Brandon Hayes' LinkedIn profile. His post from yesterday had gone viral. 3 weeks ago, I watched my father assault an innocent young woman. I stood by and did nothing. I was complicit. I resigned from Hayes Development to face consequences, not escape them. I'm starting over at Anderson Development, entry level. I've donated $15 million, my entire inheritance, to the NAACP Legal Defense Fund. To Diana Carter, I don't expect forgiveness, but I'm trying to be better. Diana had read it a dozen times. She hadn't responded. Forgiveness felt premature, but she appreciated the accountability. Her phone rang. Her father. "How's my Stanford freshman?" "Overwhelmed. My sociology professor wants to do a case study. My ethics class used the video as curriculum. It's surreal." "You okay with that?" "If my story helps people learn, then something good came from something horrible." James was quiet. "I'm proud of you. Not just that night, but how you're handling everything after." "I'm in therapy, Dad. I have nightmares. I'm not some perfect victim." "I know. Healing isn't linear, but you're doing the work." After hanging up, Diana checked her email. From Rachel Thompson, now Diversity and Inclusion Consultant at Carter Global. "Diana, I quit the plaza. I couldn't stay where I'd failed so fundamentally. Your courage changed me. With your permission, I'm using your story to develop intervention training, teaching staff that silence is complicity. Thank you for showing me what courage looks like." Rachel. Diana typed back permission. If it helped one person intervene, it was worth it. Another email from the Tech Innovation Alliance. "We've implemented the Diana Carter Clause, zero tolerance for discrimination. We've also established a scholarship in your name for young women of color. Full tuition, 4 years awarded annually." Tears pricked Diana's eyes. Other young black women wouldn't have to fight as hard. A text from her best friend Maya with a CNN link. Plaza Hotel implements sweeping anti-discrimination policies. The Plaza had overhauled everything. New management, mandatory training, diverse hiring. Elizabeth Bennett promoted to VP for her decisive action releasing the footage. The annual gala had been renamed the Diana Carter Gala for Justice and Innovation. Her name would be a reminder, a standard, a promise. The Carter Global Southeast Asia Project had broken ground. 47 sustainable properties, 60% minority-owned contractors, 50,000 jobs created. A model for ethical development. Gregory had tried to attend the groundbreaking. Security turned him away. Diana had watched the video. He looked lost, smaller, older. She felt no satisfaction, just sadness. Her therapist had warned her, "You can believe in consequences without enjoying someone's suffering. That's humanity." Diana was learning the difference between justice and vengeance. She wanted Gregory to change, to understand, to become better. Whether he would wasn't her responsibility. A knock on her door. Her RA. "Someone downstairs for you. Professor from Howard University?" Dr. Angela Freeman, legendary civil rights scholar, waited in the common room. "Ms. Carter, I wanted to meet you in person, to thank you for your courage, for showing young people they don't have to accept mistreatment." She held up a book manuscript. "I'm writing about modern civil rights. Your story is a chapter." They talked for an hour about systemic racism, progress, setbacks, and the burden of being a symbol when you just want to be a person. "You didn't choose this platform," Dr. Freeman said, "but you're using it well." Diana returned to her room. Essay due tomorrow. Life went on, even after becoming a hashtag. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. "Hi, Diana. I'm Keisha. I'm 16. Last week, my manager grabbed me like that man grabbed you. I recorded it, reported it. He got fired. I did it because I saw you do it. Thank you for showing me I could." Diana sat on her bed and cried, not from sadness, from the weight and the hope. Because Keisha spoke up, because systems were changing, because her pain had purpose. She texted back, "Keisha, I'm so proud of you. You're brave, you matter, keep speaking your truth." Then she opened her laptop and started her essay. The world was different now, not fixed, not healed, but different. And Diana Carter, 18 years old, freshman at Stanford, survivor and symbol, was learning to live in that difference. Learning that courage doesn't erase trauma, that justice doesn't erase pain, that being strong doesn't mean being okay, but it meant something. It meant the next Keisha would speak up, the next Rachel would intervene, the next Brandon would choose differently than his father. Diana looked at the award on her desk, then at the acceptance letter on her wall, then at the message from Keisha on her phone. She took a breath, and she kept going. Gregory Hayes lost $20 billion in 90 minutes. But this story isn't really about money. It's about the cost of assumptions, the price of prejudice, the weight of violence against those we deem powerless. Every day, Black professionals face what Diana faced: the suspicious looks, the demands to prove they belong, the microaggressions that accumulate like cuts, small individually but together devastating. 64% of Black professionals report being mistaken for service staff. 58% have experienced physical intimidation in workplace settings. 73% of Black teenagers report discrimination in professional spaces. Only 3.2% of Fortune 500 executives are Black women. These aren't just statistics. They're people, stories, dreams deferred or destroyed because someone decided they didn't belong. Diana had advantages most don't: a powerful father, financial security, witnesses with cameras, a platform to demand justice. But what about everyone else? What about the young Black woman at a job interview who's questioned about her qualifications? The teenager entering a networking event and being asked for her coat? The qualified candidate dismissed before speaking? What happens when there's no camera? No billionaire father? No viral video? Usually, nothing. The Gregory Hayeses of the world continue. The systems protect them. The silence enables them. That's what makes this moment different. Not because Diana got justice, though she did, but because her story forced a reckoning, made the invisible visible, turned private suffering into public accountability. The video was watched 47 million times, but more importantly, it was discussed, debated, used in training seminars and college classrooms, turned into policy changes and intervention protocols. The Diana Carter Clause now exists in hundreds of companies. Rachel's training program has been adopted nationwide. The scholarship will send young Black women to college for generations. One moment of courage created ripples that will touch millions. But here's what we must understand. This shouldn't have happened to Diana in the first place. We shouldn't need viral videos to believe victims. We shouldn't need billions in lost revenue to enforce consequences. We shouldn't need a powerful father to make assault matter. The system that created Gregory Hayes, that taught him his prejudice was acceptable, that his power made him untouchable, still exists. One scandal doesn't dismantle centuries of conditioning, but it starts conversations, and conversations create movements, and movements change systems. So here's the question for you, watching this story unfold. What will you do? Will you be the person who records but doesn't intervene? The one who stays silent to avoid discomfort? Rachel Thompson, frozen by fear of consequences? Or will you be the person who speaks up? Who steps between the aggressor and the victim? Who risks their comfort for someone else's safety? Because here's the truth. Most of you will witness something like this. Maybe not as dramatic. Maybe quieter. A dismissive comment. An inappropriate joke. Someone being excluded or diminished. In that moment, you have a choice. Diana's story shows us consequences are possible. That power can be held accountable. That speaking truth to cruelty matters. But it also shows us that justice required perfect conditions, documentation, privilege, public pressure. Most victims won't have that. They'll have you, your willingness to believe them, to support them, to use whatever privilege you have to amplify their voices and demand accountability. Change isn't just about punishing the Gregory Hayeses. It's about dismantling the systems that produce them, teaching our children that dignity isn't negotiable, that age and race and gender don't determine worth, that violence is never acceptable, regardless of who commits it. It's about creating spaces where 18-year-old Diana Carters can sit at tables without proving they belong, where their presence is welcomed, not questioned, where their safety is protected, not violated. Brandon Hayes made a choice. He saw his father's cruelty and chose differently. Donated $15 million, started over. That's redemption through action. Rachel Thompson made a choice. She admitted her cowardice and dedicated her career to ensuring others wouldn't repeat her mistake. That's accountability through service. What choice will you make? The next time you see someone being treated like Diana was treated, dismissed, grabbed, humiliated, what will you do? Will you record? Or will you intervene? Will you share the video? Or will you be the reason there doesn't need to be one? Diana Carter was 18 years old when a billionaire decided she was worthless. She survived. She spoke up. She changed the world. But she shouldn't have had to. None of them should.